Hola, my people. As you can see, I'm filming yet another theme clip shirtless, despite our we have a new operator on board. Technically, she's in training. She's not picking up too well. She has a defeatist mentality and a tendency to kind of, be careless about things. I don't care about people. I don't care about the world, and that's isolatory. It's telling of weakness. Honestly, it's the same as folding your arms. It shows that you are too weak to hold yourself up properly, that your arms are too heavy for you to even carry, and that you're in some ways attempting to defend yourself from unseen forces. It's very telling of weakness and personality. And I understand that a lot of people have adopted the mentality of, I don't care about others. I'm a lone wolf. I don't give a shit what other people think because they think that makes them appear to be stronger. Or they actually think that for some reason they believe that that is them being stronger. And that's not, that's being very weak. Being careless is weakness, period. It takes strength to care. It takes strength to adapt yourself to your environment, to care about other people's understandings, to, maintain qualities that it takes strength of mind therein, even, strength of mentality and just general adaptability for you to maintain qualities that fit your own build, that correspond with your own desires and considerations of yourself, yet match up with what other people's opinions demand. It takes strength to be a caring person. That's why the initiative is what it is. That's why we fight. Because people are lazy and careless and weak and they want to shut down, isolate themselves and drop off because the world is shit. The world shows them harshness. The world is tough on them. Life is hard on them. And so instead of fighting back to make it better, they just use that as an excuse to drop off and to be weak, to be careless, to hide, to run away from the fight. The initiative is for strong people. The initiative requires Tenno. It requires strong soldiers who are going to stand up and fight that battle, to develop caring, to develop an attitude that expresses our familiarity. In any case, uh, her opinion wasn't necessarily against me not wearing the shirt, but it's too fucking hot. I'm sweating my ass off, and I don't like the shirt that I have, which all my other shirts are in the laundry, and it's sexuality. So, figure, why not show off my sexiness, right? A lot of ladies have said that I'm sexy, but I don't believe them because I'm like super skinny. But I mean, as I've said before, in a feminine kind of way, I could be considered sexy, but I'm not a female. So, kind of contradicts itself there. Contradictory opinion. In any case, um, speaking of sexuality, we've dealt with sexuality recently, and that's why it popped up as a theme. We acquired a rep for the LGBT community, Andrea, who we spoke about considerations regarding choices in sexuality, whether or not sexuality is indeed a choice or not, and just different topics of that sort having to do with sexuality and having to do with the transgender experience. She's a transgender lady. Um, the LGBT community, for the most part, the lesbian, gay, bisexual, they're all through the social filters. They made it through there. They've won that battle for the most part. They are accepted. The transgender community is still having trouble in that regard, and that's one of the major artifacts we need to deal with in that catalyst event. But we've come across others. This topic is spread out, and of course, as I've stated before, the themes have a tendency to carry on amongst the members. When I speak to you guys on Messenger, a lot of you will share the same concerns and considerations at any given time during the 2 week span. And outside of there, of course, the theme is adopted because we see it coming in advance. Most often, actually, even a week in advance or more. It the concerns of the public of our members begin to transfer into this new area of interest. But sexuality has been a primary article of concern lately, and we've spoken to people who talk about being pansexual, which I'm still not clear on what that's supposed to mean. I mean, if you, I from what I'm told from the people I've spoken to, and especially speaking with Megan about it, considering that our niece is considers herself to be a pansexual and she's with that whole movement. This is amongst the younger crowd nowadays. They have these ideas of pansexual, which is, from what I'm told, it seems as though it's just a non-exclusive sexuality. Like, I don't exclude anybody. It's pretty much just to be polite. Like, you don't want to you don't want anybody to think that you're excluding them from your considerations. But discernment and judgment in that regard, and your preference, these things are important. They shape who and what you are. And just coming on the record and saying that I don't disclude anybody, I'm not, I'll accept anybody sexually speaking, because I don't exclude anybody and I'm not discriminative. That's not really, I mean, that defines you as being technically nothing. There's nothing unique about that. That means that you have no discernments and that you really don't know what you're talking about in regards to sexuality, because obviously you haven't developed your own personal opinions on the matter. You just, accept the trendy, non exclusive ideology, which B is not really safe by any stretch. I mean, it puts you in danger in so many different ways, most presciently that in the with the factor that you're gonna have anybody coming on to you, you're gonna have anybody believing that they have a chance with you, where in fact your real feelings on the matter is, I don't really like guys, or I don't really like girls, or I'm not into this certain type, body type, or whatever the case may be. You do have opinions in that regard. You have discernments, you have judgments. You are not actually pansexual. You're just, for the most part, you're lying, because yes, you do have opinions on the matter, you do have preferences, and it's important that you voice these. It's important that you make that a part of your expression of who you are. Define yourself appropriately. Make yourself. Don't accept some ideology that says this non-exclusive ideology about sexuality because it's trendy and because you don't want to come off as being exclusive. Fuck that. Have your own opinions, have your own discernments. Saying that I don't want to sleep with a certain sort of person, or a certain sex, or a certain body type, whatever the case may be, that doesn't mean that you are against them. And that's the big flaw in sexuality now. That's the big flaw in this catalyst event as it's occurring right now, is that people want to take offense to everything. And as I've spoken to before, especially with the transgender community, they have a tendency to take offense to things that are not offensive, especially regarding semantics and terminology. It's out of hand. I'm obviously, of course, as I'm saying this, I'm not trying to speak down about anybody or say anything bad about anybody. This is what we examine. This is what is brought to light in our investigation into the matter, is that transgender people have this tendency, well, younger transgender people, the kids nowadays, the kids in general, have this kind of emo tendency to want to take offense to things, and the world's out to get them, and everything's fucking something, everything is somehow offensive to them. And like words, like I misused the word, I guess I misused the word transsexual once, which transsexual means to have transformed your sexuality or transition into a differing sexuality or sex, gender, of course, or to, transfer or alter your sexuality in general, your preference, determined by your choices and determined by your feelings regarding your choices. This is what the word means. But I used the word transsexual once and I got exceptionally negative feedback from a younger transgender lady who said that this is, well, she's a transgender man, I guess. There's a lady who transitioned into a man because apparently the term transsexual, though it means what it says and it's perfectly definitive for this particular area of interest, it's somehow offensive because it's not the right term, and I should be saying transgender, and even then I've got to be careful who I say it to and in what tone. It's just, It's very peculiar, and I'm not speaking down, of course, to anybody who considers themselves to be pansexual. Again, with that, it's it's just that it's not real. It's not. It's not. I mean, if you are perfectly open and accepting of everybody, then you are just sexual. You don't need some special term to define you as being non-exclusive. For A and B, nobody is. Nobody doesn't have preferences. And if you don't have preferences, it defines you as being careless and frankly stupid because you're just going to sleep with anybody that comes your way for the sake of being accepting. It's you can accept people without determining that you have a sexual preference for them. And if you determine that you have a sexual preference that excludes certain people's, that's not talking down to them. That's not being mean to them. That's not to be taken as an offense. It's your preference. We have this one girl who I haven't talked to her yet. I'm trying to get a hold of her. Well, I'm hoping to get a hold of her. I haven't tried to yet. Sorry, I've been lazy lately. You know, got a lot on my plate with the whole family thing and dealing with the driver's license, which is awesome. I have so much fun driving. I've driven before, but not a lot, and never actually like around in circles and through lots and shit. You know, back in the driveways and all that cool shit. I love it. It's very fun. But we have this one girl who is part of the atheist movement, and she's awesome. She does like interviews with priests and shit. She goes out and talks to religious fanatics in the streets, and she's very like sarcastic, but so perfectly sarcastic. She's so good at it that it's like clandestine. They don't even realize that she's being sarcastic. She can have a whole conversation where she's kind of making fun of somebody's stupidity without them even knowing it. Not saying that all religious fanatics are stupid, but talking about these particular religious fanatics. I don't care what you believe in. If you're diehard Jesus fanatic and you take the Bible word for word, I dare you to watch these videos and not think the people she's talking to are fucking dim-witted. They're stupid people, and you know I'm sorry to be a dickhead, but I am what I am, and that's an opinion I was given by our new potential operator. Is that you know you can't change who you are at your core. Essentially, I guess. I mean, I'm a I'm an advocate of the idea that you actually can, but yeah, maybe you don't want to, and people's opinions shouldn't matter so much that you need to alter yourself entirely for them, which you know harkens back to the pansexual ideology where you're expressing yourself as being something you're not for the sake of being accepting to everybody. You don't have to do that. I mean, if you want to, go ahead. I'm not going to say there's something wrong with it. I'm just it doesn't make any sense at all. It just doesn't make any sense. It's not. It's irrational. It's illogical, and it's putting us in a predicament where we have a failed understanding of each other, where we have a consistent miscommunication between our understanding of who and what we express ourselves as by, for, and in and of each other. But this girl does videos on this one particular transgender girl YouTuber who she actually has this idea, like the big push on her videos. One of the concerns or one of the topics that she pushes is that if people do not want to have sex with transgender people, in her mind that means they're sexist against transgender people, and she totally pushes this. And I mean, it's like I'm a man. If I don't want to have sex with other men, does that mean I'm sexist against the male of the species? If I were a gay man and I didn't want to have sex with women, would that mean I'm sexist against women? No, it means I have a preference. It means I feel a certain way, I act upon it, and I express that determination as my reality. And this chick, she goes, her name's Jacqueline Glenn, I think, or she has a very cool channel. I think that her channel is called Jacqueline Glenn. She's part of the atheist compartment, and she's fucking awesome. She's super cool, and she has beautiful red hair too. She's a cutie, particularly. Speaking of sexuality, but yeah, she's a cutie. She's a hottie. I think she just got married though recently. So the last time I got with a married girl, it put the entire initiative in trouble. So I'm cutting that. That's gonna be speaking to my own personal sexuality. You know, I've always been. I've always had a. I think like just about every girl. In fact, I don't remember a single one that wasn't every single girl I've ever been with, except for the last one, except for Rue. Every other girl, except for the very last one I was with, were cheating on somebody, and most of the time I didn't know it. Obviously, I didn't know it at first because I wouldn't overstep that bound. Once I have overstepped it, though, it's difficult to get out of it. I mean, I have, but I mean sometimes I haven't, and I'm a fucking dickhead for that for sure. But you know, I've altered that. I'm not gonna do that anymore. I'm not gonna allow that to happen. I'm gonna interview the girls I get with beforehand to make sure they don't have a boyfriend or a husband. But yeah, the last time I got with a married girl, yeah, we had a thing going before she got married, but then she did get married, and as I said, it was tough to back out because we were actually in love, but she was, I mean, we were diehard in love with each other, but she married this dude for monetary reasons, for financial reasons, and you know, stability in her life, and so that he could take care of her life for the most part. She didn't have to worry about overworking herself or getting stuck in a rut, winding up without a place to stay or what have you. And so she married this dude, but we were still in love with each other. And then she couldn't have me because I mean, she's married, and I tried to kind of clip it, and I cut off this sort of affair we were having, and she got jealous of me being with other girls and started sabotaging my relationships with other people. So difficult predicament. It put everything in trouble. It really, we're still paying for that as a whole. The initiative in its entirety is still paying for that, but we're trying to pick up that slack, and we're having trouble, but we're gonna get it taken care of. Don't worry about it. But anyways, as I've told you in other stories before, that's always been the case with me. Every girl that I've been with has been cheating on somebody, except for the last one, who was actually kind of a pickup artist who picked people up at random. So in a kind of sort of way, a manner of speaking, she was being unfaithful because she was with, you know, I'm sure that there were multiple people at the time who thought that the two of them were together. But you know, she was picking me up, and we're dating for a little while. While meanwhile, I'm sure in the off time between the dates, she's off with somebody else. Could very well be, and now I got to go get checked for transmitted diseases. But I am getting checked, and I have no reason to think that I have any. So I want to get checked because it's a potentiality that I have to have in mind. The last few girls I was with were untrustworthy in that way, and you know, not to speak down at them. Obviously, I'm a dickhead. I'm untrustworthy, or I'm not necessarily untrustworthy. If you get with me, if a girl gets with me, I'm loyal. I'm die-hard loyal. I'll never ever cheat on them. I'll never do anything to harm them or to move against them. I will be uh, like I'll worship that girl in a sort of way, not like a, you know, not like worship, but you know, I will hold her in the very highest regard and consider her to be the most important person in my life, and I will never do anything to damage that relationship or the way that we feel about each other. So I am a die-hard loyal person where it comes to romantic engagements and sexuality, but you know, the fact as it stands being that most of the girls I've been with were being unfaithful to somebody else, I guess that kind of makes me, you know, shitty in that regard, even though most of the time I didn't know it every time. I never knew it to begin with. I never got with somebody straight up. Okay, I got with one person straight off who I knew was with somebody else, but in that case, as in most cases, they were having a shitty relationship that they were just kind of clinging on to because they were afraid to break up, or you know, they hadn't considered it as a possibility. Even they just stuck together even though their relationship was shit and they pretty much hated each other. And that happens a whole lot. That's a problem, an issue with sexuality. In this day and age, it's always been an issue with sexuality, but in this day and age in particular, we have that tendency for people, and it's like largely because the children, the younger kids, are growing up with this kind of victimization complex in their head, and they want to be abused, and they're even into the kind of BDSM fetishes and such. There's all this stuff we can talk to in the next video, but that's just my my random clip on the theme because I had to make one. I didn't really have anything particularly viable to say, but I winged it, and there you have it. We have another week to go. Anybody, please get in with your opinions or regards on sexuality. If you watch this and you have a disagreement with me, say something. If you're pissed off at me, fucking start a fight, dude. Don't be a punk. Get in, contribute something regarding this most basic and primal of considerations for our species and our global family. This is the one of the biggest deals that exists. This is the primary catalyst event, a primary catalyst event. So give us something on sexuality. What is your sexuality? What are your sexual preferences? How do you feel about sexuality? How do you feel about people's regards of sexuality in this day and age? How do you feel about certain gender proposals or certain types, personality types regarding sexuality? Give us some consideration as to what you feel about sexuality in general, being an actual living human person. So something you're capable of doing, something you should be expected to do, contribute to your society, if even in just the smallest way. So let's see what you guys got to say. Thank you for this time. Sorry I just dragged on ridiculous nonsense, but I have to contribute. I make it a policy. I make it an actual duty for me to contribute what I have to contribute as often as I can. And don't ask you to do it as often as you can. I just ask you to do it at all. So, Kila Salai, Terve Uni Siari, together, forward together. Namaste.